Hi, my name is Christian Hess. I'm a specialist on the ancient Near East, and I'm happy to be a senior fellow at ANAMED at Koç University during the fall session of the 2024 to 2025 academic year. During my fellowship, I'll be working on a library of Neo-Assyrian cuneiform texts from the 8th to 7th centuries BC from a scribal community from the site of Sultan Tepe in the region of Şanlıurfa. I'm interested particularly in how we can observe adaptations of the syllabic cuneiform writing system within a localized community of practice, and how we can explain those practices within a specifically Anatolian context of regional exchange networks. I'm coming to ANAMED after 2 years as a Marie Curie Research Fellow at the Lab Arscan, Archaeology and Sciences of Antiquity at the French National Research Center, the CNRS, in Nanterre. As an Assyriologist, my research focuses essentially on two main threads: the social context of language and writing, and the intellectual and social geographies of Late Bronze and Iron Age Mesopotamia. My background is in classical studies, Semitic languages, and ancient Near Eastern studies, which I studied at Chicago, Marburg, and Leipzig. I completed my dissertation in 2013, looking at the question of how literary languages came to be standardized within the Late Bronze Age Assyrian and Babylonian royal courts. Before moving to Nanterre, I taught ancient Near Eastern languages and history as a lecturer at the Freie Universität Berlin in Germany, covering seminars on Sumerian and Akkadian, as well as courses on history and cultural heritage. Since 2010, I've worked regularly as a field epigrapher on excavations and archaeological surveys in Iraqi Kurdistan, with a focus on the transitional period from the Late Bronze Age to the Iron Age, before the rise of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. I also collaborated in an international research project on the historical geography of Upper Mesopotamia during the second millennium BC, based on a combination of extensive archaeological survey data and information from texts to understand how the first Assyrian territorial state took shape. My current research project looks broadly at how writing and language changes during the long arc from the Late Bronze Age to the Hellenistic period. I'm interested particularly in how these changes can be observed in school texts during a period where the Babylonian Assyrian language was progressively losing ground and being replaced by others such as Aramaic. We tend to think of the late cuneiform literary tradition as a monolithic, stable thing. Only recently have we started to observe how much variation there is in that tradition, without a clear sense of the societal why and how through which that variation comes to take place. These themes essentially form the background of my research project at ANAMED. The project focuses on a group of cuneiform texts from the site of Sultan Tepe, located on the direct route between the major urban centers of Haran and Urfa. The site was excavated during 2 short seasons in 1951 to 1952 under the joint direction of Nuri Gökçe, director of the Hittite Museum at Ankara, and Seton Lloyd, then director of the British Institute of Archaeology at Ankara. The more than 450 tablets established ancient Huzirena as a major regional center with far-reaching ties to Ashur and Babylon. The texts were written by a community of scribes whom we can trace in the colophons across several generations, right up to the end of the empire at the end of the 7th century BC. This also means that our library is the last large cuneiform corpus from Anatolia and the last sizable corpus of writing before the rise of Syriac in neighboring Edessa. When the texts were first published, they revolutionized our view of how cuneiform was still being read on the margins of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The transition from cuneiform to other writing systems was not a linear process, where cuneiform simply disappeared and Aramaic took over. The library has, however, rarely been studied as an assemblage. Many of the school texts from the site, which are supposed to form the background of how that tradition was being taught, were never properly published at all. In addition, we can now know that the material isn't nearly as isolated as it once appeared, and can draw on a number of other scribal centers, including Haran itself, for comparison. The project is thus an attempt to address a number of open questions on how this library came to take shape. We tend to view the spread of cuneiform in the first millennium as a centralized top-down process radiating from the imperial centers such as Nineveh. And they certainly exercise an enormous influence on what is being written and how. But this also essentially makes the political capital our benchmark and relegates places such as Sultan Tepe to the role of a subsidiary periphery. Now, we know that this model doesn't work very well to describe the complexity of intersecting and overlapping communities in earlier periods. In the same way, we know that the model doesn't work for other types of cultural production or economic exchange. Sultan Tepe itself has provided a number of archaeological and art historical examples for this, including a set of Egyptianizing furniture inlays and ivories. These provide good examples for how Sultan Tepe was an integral part of the connected Iron Age Mediterranean. So the question is essentially, why should writing itself be the big exception? What I'll be doing at ANAMED is looking at how we can better frame the Sultan Tepe material as the result of a continuing community of local practice, which describes we're adapting the writing system and content to their own needs, while at the same time constantly absorbing input from outside. In other words, what's been missing so far is a view of how this scribal community works within its local and regional Anatolian setting. For now, though, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in Istanbul.